fact that inflation is cooling is good news, but prices continue to rise. And on top of that, you might have noticed this thing called shrinkflation. That means that laundry detergent or the candy bar that you buy gets smaller in size and weight, but the prices, well, they go up or stay the same. For many companies, it is their way of dealing with increasing cost or supply chain issues. So joining us now is Mark Scribner. He is the managing director and private CFO of Oxygen Financial. And Mark, I went to the grocery store yesterday and I bought what I thought was a pint of Haagen-Dazs. It's not. This issue is not new, but the products seem to be getting smaller than they were in the past. Can you explain what we're seeing and how much more widespread it's become?
Yeah, shrinkflation is also known as package downsizing, and you're not wrong about that Haagen-Dazs. The contents of packages are shrinking, the prices are staying the same, and that's something that really has a lot of traction. And corporations have an insatiable greed for profit, and I just don't see this going away anytime soon. It happened in the 70s, but it seems like it's really here to stay, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember in the 70s when people were complaining about a nickel candy bar that was going up to 25 cents. The candy bar got smaller, the price stayed the same. So I guess that's the basic question. Are we ever going to see these smaller products get bigger again?
Maybe if there's a depression or a long-term recession, I don't see it. Like I said, corporations have an insatiable appetite for profit. They see it. I look at like the airlines, for example, when they temporarily were going to put costs for baggage, but that's never gone away. And in fact, they've expanded on that. They're charging for seats and extras. So I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Mark, how is shrinkflation different than what we have seen with products like potato chips, where you open the bag and there's more air nowadays than chips?
There's a lot of similarities. That's kind of where it starts. The contents of the packaging reduces. The packaging looks exactly the same, so the consumer thinks, they're getting that, but they open it up, like you said, bags of air and just less content. But it's really going with every consumer product that you can think of, the shampoos and all the things that you utilize on a daily basis. There's less content, and now they're shrinking the packages, but the prices are exactly the same.
When all of this began, Mark, we were told it was the supply chain. But guess where eggs don't come from? They don't come from China. Neither does our milk. Neither does that Hershey bar from Hershey, Pennsylvania. So are we talking about supply chain problems or just good old-fashioned corporate greed?
That was the excuse in the beginning. There was supply chain issues that were there, but I do think it's just corporate greed. Like I said, they have an insatiable appetite. I keep saying it over and over. Once they see those profits in there, they're not going to get away from that. They're masters of the shareholders, and that's who they try to focus on.
You keep mentioning the shareholders. So who do they work for? Do they work for us, the consumer, or do they work for the shareholder?
They work for Wall Street. So, profits. So they're their masters, and that's what they're looking at is profit all the time. And that's, mostly publicly traded companies. But, once profit is in there, it's hard to give it back.
With drugs, you can buy a generic brand. Kind of tough to buy a generic brand of Haagen-Dazs. So what do consumers do if we say we're fed up, we're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore?
They just have to be really diligent about shopping for deals. And, early on in our high school days, we used to try to figure out like how much stuff weighed and what the value is. A lot of the stores will have, like the Targets, the Walmarts of the world, they'll have a cost per unit, and you have to do those calculations. But, it's going back and looking at the Costco's of the world and some of these bigger stores and just comparing sizes and shopping around. But, you have to be diligent to save money here, just because you can't buy stuff off the shelf and expect it's the same.
What about those people that go to Sam's Club and Costco and buy in bulk? Is that a better way to get around shrinkflation, or are we getting nailed there too?
It could be, but if you're buying 2,000 rolls of toilet paper and you don't need them, it's not a really good savings of money. But they can be. The bulk is where the discounts typically are. And, there's all kinds of things out there. There's clubs that you can join. There's coupon clubs and things like that. There are websites that you can go on and compare costs and the price content, but you do need to be diligent here.
Mark, what should we not be paying more for? I brought up eggs. Chickens are laying the same eggs that they laid before we got into the supply chain problem. The cows are still producing the same amount of milk, but eggs, last time I checked, were up 49%. What is it out there that we should not be paying more for? And what should we be going to, who do we go to say, we are mad as hell?
The biggest thing right now is restaurants, food and beverages. Those prices, we talk about inflation, are much more than what it costs to feed yourself at home at the moment. So that's really, cooking at home is definitely more important than going out to the restaurants, unfortunately. That's carrying over into the dating world right now, for example. There's this new term that's out there called infodating, which is inflation dating, and people actually are going back at the moment and they're doing free walks and things like that, trying to save money on dating. But definitely restaurants at the moment, that's where inflation has carried over, both on the labor shortage as well as the food costs and the beverage costs and things like that. But I think you just really need to look at the prices and shop around as much as you can. It might not be that one store that you're used to going to. It might be multiple stores to get a good deal.
What was that term you said again about restaurants?
It's called infladating. It's your Newsy fans will hear it first. It's inflation dating. And a lot of folks that go on dating now are being very creative about how they do their first dates. They're going to the museum for free. They're going to coffee and walks and hikes and things like that because the cost of dating has gone up almost double in the past couple of years. So people are trying to find out creative ways to actually still date but also save money.
Yeah, there's an old-fashioned phrase for that, but I'm not going to bring it up. Mark Scribner, who is the managing director for Oxygen Financial. Mark, as always, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.